This is just to get to the point where you're crossing this threshold where there's interest to action.
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to get this initial commitment. So really, we could divide all business up into these broad categories of B2B or B2C.
Mm-hmm.
Right? In B2B selling, one of the great challenges in the sales process is that you've got to demonstrate this value proposition. What I'm selling you is worth what I'm asking you to buy. And in B2B, it's almost always a return on investment question.
Mm-hmm.
So will I get at least as much back as what I've spent? And it's one of two ways, right? In a reduction of expenses or an increase in revenues. It's just that simple. So for most B2B, that's what they're looking at. Now, you might be able to convince them that there's a translation in some other way that isn't directly acknowledgeable by virtue of the reduction of expenses or increase in revenues, by saying, we're going to put insurance in place, and the potential avoidance of loss due to exposure is worth the cost of the insurance. So, in fact, it's increasing your expenses. There's no direct increase in revenue, but the potential risk that would be a hit on your expenses justifies the return on investment of the insurance, right? So, one way or another, they're still looking at it through this lens of profitability. Is this impacting my profits in a positive way? Or does it prevent me from experiencing undue losses? Right? And the same thing is true, for instance, if I go to your offer, that the fundamental offer may not be directly translatable into expenses or revenues in a positive way. So you're increasing expenses if they hire you. You're not necessarily directly decreasing expenses. You're not necessarily increasing revenues in the short term that are immediately recognizable. But if you can demonstrate that there's going to be a reduced attrition and that there's a cost associated with each new hire and each new training and people leaving the organization, there is a positive impact on expenses. You reduce the expenses of those new hires and the attrition. If someone stays with the organization, there's an argument to be made that they only begin to produce value commensurate with their pay at some point after the hire's been made, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, whatever it is. And by keeping them longer, you get to get that value that you've been investing in.